In today's video, we're going to talk about one of the main reasons, probably the reason, why I bought the Nikon Zf. Let's get into it. So, as always, I will talk to the B cam. I'm bringing back last year when I was making content, I was doing a B cam and I would put this one in black and white. So the B cam is black and white. This one's in color. Let's get into it. I'm turning 40 in about a month, a little over a month. I'm only at 66 subscribers. I'm going to make the pitch again every week. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. It's a tall order, but I'm going for it. If you like my content and you're on board for my journey, you like what I'm doing, I'm trying to put out photography content that's not so scientific, just more very much shooting with cool gear and then talking about it and just documenting kind of my process and my journey. So if you're up for it, if you like it, go ahead and hit that like, subscribe, and leave a comment below. And let's engage and let's have a conversation. So for today's video, I really wanted to dive into a topic that became more of a thing for me as I kind of changed the kind of photography I was doing. I'm no longer really doing client work. Not that I ever really did a lot of it. I have been paid in the past to do photography. The type of photography that I was shooting was more family-based stuff. It was just kind of holidays, birthdays, intimate moments, little trips with my girlfriend, things like that. So I wanted something that would streamline that process. So the main reason for picking this thing up to begin with was because of the straight out of camera JPEGs. That's really what it was. I was tired of bringing in hundreds of photos into Lightroom and having to find the right preset, and then I make some black and white, and then my family was like, can I get this one in color? You know, why is it always in black and white? I still shoot black and white because this has the black and white knob, which I love, and I think it's just become part of my style, and I really do love black and white. Like, black and white genuinely is like one of my favorite things to shoot, so I can't not be shooting black and white. I wanted to cut out the Lightroom part of it when it came to like family stuff. And because that's 99% of what I shoot these days, I started looking for a camera system that would allow me to do that. Canon has very simple, straightforward color profiles, but to me, I really liked what Fuji was doing. So I tried the Fuji X100V. I tried it and I bought and resold it like 2 or 3 times because I just couldn't get on board with Fuji. Fuji to me was always like slower, clunky. The experience, like the camera kept getting in the way. I kept having issues with the software. I remember I was at Disneyland and I had the X-T5 and I literally would have to keep pulling the battery out to reset the whole camera when I'm simply trying to take a photo. And that just, to me, that was just kind of like a deal breaker where I was like, I can't do this. I can't be taking out the battery when I'm trying to capture like my niece running around. I basically crossed off Fuji. So I stuck to Canon because I was like, all right, I'll just stick with Canon for now. And then I was trying to I found some really good presets that were very like simple, clean, like Kodak. They look like a Kodak Gold 200 or a Kodak Portra, and they had a really nice black and white. And there was really, really like clean, simple, beautiful presets. It required me to have to bring all the photos into Lightroom and do that whole thing. The Nikon Zf came along, and I started to give it a little bit of attention. I think I saw a video on YouTube, and that's when it started to pique my interest, where I was like, okay, there's something here with this Nikon. So I rented the first one in December of 2024, and I used it for the 2-week break that I had for the holidays. And I took it on a trip to Vegas with my girlfriend. I shot New Year's Eve with it. I was into it. I loved the body style, the retro look, which is a big thing. For me, I want a camera that kind of inspires me, so I feel like having a camera that just gives you that F3, that Nikon F3 retro look is something that I really wanted. I also bought it because it had the black and white dial, and because I love shooting black and white, there's nothing better than shoot some color photos and then flick the switch, and boom, we're in black and white. That's another big reason because I could do both without having to go into the menu system and change from black and white to color, or I could bypass Lightroom entirely. And I don't have any special preset or color profile for black and white. I literally use the one that's built into the camera. I just flick it into black and white, and I find those JPEGs just out of camera with the basic preset just absolutely beautiful and gorgeous. Like, there's some of my favorite photos that I've taken in black and white. I think, like, to me, it works. I have no complaints with the black and white that comes out of this camera. I really started to consider like, should I buy this camera? I rented it in December. I sent it back early in January, and then I didn't buy this camera until April of last year because I kind of sat on it for a few months. I was like, let me see if I really like need it, because I kind of went back to my Canon, and at this point I was already shooting a lot of film on a Nikon film camera that my dad had bought. As time went on, I was like, I'm kind of starting to miss that ZF. I'm kind of missing the simplicity of just pulling JPEG straight out of camera and using that. Because January, February, March doesn't really have much going on. Once we kind of got to like Easter, and then I had some other stuff coming up in the spring and then into the summer, I was really considering like I should probably just buy it, because I'm going to want this camera for these trips that I'm taking, these holidays that I have coming up, and I had some birthdays and just a lot of family stuff coming up. And I'm like, I should probably buy it because I want it for that. So I just went ahead and just finally bought it. Once I bought it, I quickly remembered why I loved shooting with this camera. It's just JPEG RAW, and I rarely ever touch the RAWs unless I actually need to go in and like bring up the exposure on photos or do some cleanup work or some other stuff. But for the most part, since I've bought this camera, it's been like 99% JPEG straight out of camera, because I've been experimenting some different color profiles, which I'm going to make another video about, but I've been experimenting with color profiles. So basically I'm trying to make it as simple as I can to continue using this camera for JPEG only. I have my Canon R5 still that I used the other day for some product photos that I needed to take, but for the most part, the majority of my workflow, because of this camera and because of Nikon's overall system in general, I'm leaning more towards JPEG straight out of camera. There are some caveats, there are some exceptions. If someone's hiring me to do a professional headshot for them, like the editor that I've worked with, he asked me if I could do his headshot. Of course, I'm going to shoot that and bring that into Lightroom. There needs to be some editing on that, right? So certain things like that, product photos for my family grocery store that my sister asked me for, I'm going to bring that into Lightroom and handle that in Lightroom. Or if I want to do like a panorama shot like I did at Disneyland the other day, I stitched 3 photos together. Things like that, you're just going to have to use Lightroom. But the majority of my photos these days, when I'm hanging out with my girlfriend, when I'm hanging out with my family, or I'm taking photos of my dog, 99% of it is just straight out of camera, little to no adjustments. Bigger picture, at this point, I'm heavily considering selling my Canon R5 and jumping over to the Nikon Z8 and having my workhorse hybrid camera also be a Nikon that also allows me to have these color profiles built in. In the event that I don't want to take 2 cameras, I can just take this one or take the hybrid if I also want to do really high-end quality video. I'm kind of in that boat where I'll probably have the ZF and the Z8 as my go-to cameras, and I can carry over the same color profiles and looks between 2, so there's no color discrepancies there. And then lastly, I think the bigger thing is I kind of just got bored with Canon. They haven't really been keeping up with the Fujis, the Panasonics, and the Nikons, right? Canon colors are beautiful. They have great color science. Their autofocus is fantastic. The R5 or the R6 Mark III, the open gate, the C50 I rented used, beautiful camera. Like they're doing a lot of great things, but I think they're still starting to fall behind. I think what people want, I think there's more of a need for Canon hopefully drops a retro camera like the ZF, but I'm also hoping that Canon starts to get on board with the different color profiles and giving us more in-camera control, or do what Panasonic does and let us put a LUT for photos and video, and now we can take photos with LUTs, bake that look in. I'm hoping for more control. I don't know. I'm still kind of 1 foot in Nikon, 1 foot in Canon, and I don't really know. I probably wouldn't sell this, but if Canon does start to kind of go more Nikon, Fuji, Panasonic, maybe I'd hold on to the R5, or maybe I'd sell the R5 and get, if they drop a retro camera, get a Canon retro camera, you know, because I still have a lot of Canon lenses, and the idea of selling it all just seems like a real pain. But if I have to sell it, I have to sell it. I'm not gonna really be invested too much into 2 different camera systems. At this point, I feel like Canon's just gonna kind of do what they're gonna do, and that's it. So I'm not holding out too much hope for Canon. Canon, if you're watching, maybe start kind of trying to play catch up with Nikon and Fuji. So that's it for this video. It's kind of a quick little chat that we're having here. Thank you for watching this video. If you stuck around, if you like my content, hit that subscribe button, leave a comment, and get a conversation going. Other than that, I will see you guys in the next video.